So, how untreated emotion of grief can result in depression? First, we need to understand what is grief, second, what is depression, and then how second depression comes from the first grief. So, grief and depression both are emotions. Now, what's emotions? Emotion, I define it as body feelings that our intellect interprets as related to our nerves, meaning to ourselves. I explained previously what is emotions in terms of being intersection between animal aspect of us and angelic aspect of us, meaning intersection between instincts and intellect. How we experience certain feelings, yes, certain sensations in our body. Just to give you an example, let's say you feel tension in your stomach, or you feel something, you say it's coldness or burning. It can be stomach, can be face, can be chest, doesn't matter. This feeling, you interpret it in a certain way. For example, this tension in the stomach, you interpret as fear. Burning cheeks, you say this is shame or maybe anger, whatever. So once you add interpretation to the feeling becomes emotion. Then every your emotion, meaning every feeling that you interpret as related to your nerves, to yourself, it's always a message. It's a message to you that you have to do something. It is emotion. It's motion moving you towards certain goal. Well, that's basically how our human body is communicating to our human intellect. And here when I say intellect, I don't just mean brain. Intellect as what in Arabic we call it aql, as defined by Alama Sa'aduddin Taftazani. In his famous commentary, Sharh Aqidah Nasafiyya, he said that basically what does it mean? The capacity of nerves by means of which nerves can grasp things. Nerves can know things. So that's emotions in general. Now let's talk about emotion grief in particular. What does grief tell us? It's telling you, you have suffered loss and now you have to replenish it. You have to make restoration to yourself. For example, you had a conflict with your friend and now you're feeling sad. Why you sad? Because when you are in that state of conflict, you have lost certain things that are related to your friend because you had them before. Now you cannot call him or her, or you spend time together like you've done before. So basically you cannot have things that you had before. You lost those opportunities, you lost those possibilities. And now this you feeling sad, this sadness, this grief, it's informing you about it. Another example, divorce. You divorced your ex-spouse. Or someone passed away, someone close to you. Now you are feeling sad, you have lost someone. So what grief does? Two things. First, informs you that you suffered loss. Secondly, it's telling you, you need to take measures, you need to take actions to restore, to replace what you have lost. That's the second part, also very important. Now again, let's go back to that same story when we had a conflict with a friend and we are feeling sad. Now this sadness, this emotion is motivating us even before we will make a conscious decision to make peace. So it's that feeling which causes us to restore the relationship. Maybe we offended him, so we will ask for forgiveness. Or maybe we were offended, so we will tell our friend, look, you say this and this, it was really hurtful to me. So you see, it's that sense of grief or emotion of grief motivating us to restore what we have lost. Let's take another example, divorce. The grief is telling you, now you don't have a spouse anymore. It's motivating you to take an action to restore that loss. Yes, at first you were sitting, you were grieving, maybe crying, but this is the first and necessary step, because it's a sign that you cannot go on with your business as usual. Yes, it's a difficult, painful period, but then at the same time, the same grief motivating us to find a new path. It's very simple, it's actually very logical. And you know, even when someone close to us passes away, for example, dear friend of ours, family member, the core message is still the same. You have lost, you could say, important source of happiness in your life. So first step, you got to acknowledge this. Second one, you need to find a replacement. It might sound cynical, but that's the reality. What will happen if we will suppress this grief? We're not going to respond to it, we ignore this feeling. So what it means? We have suffered a loss, but we don't acknowledge this. We don't do anything to restore it. We're ignoring it, trying to look for happiness in other spheres of life, and that's a classical, what they call compensation defense mechanism. So instead of doing what we are supposed to do, we are trying to replace it with some other activities. So this means we are simply resisting our emotions. We are resisting, you call it, natural flow, natural direction of life. So what we are doing, we are pressuring ourselves. We are suppressing our emotions. And now our body has to tell us, you're not doing the right thing. Before you were married, now you got divorced. So it means you have lost a loss of a spouse and everything what comes with it. And body is telling you, I'm going to regulate your emotional state. And now your sadness level is 10 out of 10. So before you would be laughing, now you're hardly smiling. And before, let's say, most of your time you were okay, now most of your time you are sad. Your body is doing it with a sincere, with a good intention to make it difficult for you to live your life as usual. So you're not gonna do your business as usual. You're not gonna focus on career, increasing your income, going further into your studies, I don't know, maybe improve your athletic sport results, whatever else you're doing in your life. Because body is telling you, now you need to find a new partner for your life. And then, to motivate you doing this, I'm going to make you feel sad. But what often happens, person is resisting, person saying, no, I'm going to run away from this, I will ignore it. I'm going to tell myself, I am focusing on my personal growth, so I could make more money. Or I'm focusing on my spiritual growth. I want miracles to happen in my life. And because of all this, all these excuses, person says, I'm not interested in marriage right now. So basically what you're doing, you are pressuring yourself into certain activities. You're trying to compensate for your loss in one sphere by achievement in other spheres of your life. It can be career, business, community activism, whatever. But you have to restore your loss not where it is convenient for you, but where that loss happened. So in our example, that would be meaningful, intimate, close, family relationship. And it can be done by finding a suitable spouse. So you see, you are pressuring yourself. Now, how your body is going to respond to this? It will say, okay, first what I've done, I put sadness level 7 out of 10. I made it very difficult for you to do other things, but you kept doing them. In fact, you started pressuring yourself to do other things even more than before. Then what your body does, it's saying, okay, now I'm going to switch sadness level 10 out of 10. You were pressuring yourself, so I have to depress. Now you cannot pressure yourself anymore. You cannot go to work, cannot study. Sometimes you even can get up from your bed in the morning. Because you see, first, during the initial grief, it was difficult to do other things. But now, during depression, it is impossible to do anything. Because the things you were doing before, it was not taking you anywhere. So, just stop doing everything, because you're just making it worse. You were trying to find happiness and compensate by some alternative sources. So now you cannot be happy with anything. So grief was like a gentle reminder. But now you got depression. That's a proper wake-up call. So how to work with depression caused by grief? Now, nafsopathologically speaking, well, I think everything is clear here actually. You work with emotion of grief before it's developed into depression. Address the root cause. Just fighting depression is just a protection mechanism of your nerves from yourself. You got to resolve your problem. At the end of the day, you have to rebuild your life because no one else is going to do it for you. So if you're gonna do that, you won't have to pressure yourself. And if you don't pressure yourself, there will be no need for depression. That's it. Simple.